This is Mark / PuTo Mendoza in Canada. I'd like to welcome you to my channel. Thanks for joining me, by the way. Basically what I'm trying to do here is put together a series of stories that happened to our lives since we came here back in the mid-80s. Just so for the people out there that are thinking about migrating to this beautiful country, or even people that are new to Canada, they can get a glimpse of exactly how a typical Filipino family, how they lived, how they loved, their basic journey in this beautiful, beautiful country and land of opportunity. So, just as a brief background, my family came here basically mid-80s. We were the last ones to basically be brought over. Lahat ng mga kamag-anak ko nandito na. The last people to go to get petitioned was my mom, myself, and my little brother. So I think that was around 85, 86-ish. So mga bata pa kami, me and my brother, when we arrived here. So needless to say, there was a big culture shock because you go from one extreme to the other. Sa Pilipinas, yes, I remember, they taught you English in class, and there's a lot of movie shows or TV shows that are in English. I used to watch Sesame Street when I was young, nasa Pilipinas ako. But to use that language 24/7, you don't really do that in the Philippines, but here you have no choice. So, nung bata kami nung brother ko, I'm pretty sure he went through the same thing. The language was a big thing. Like, they say, pag bata ka, madali ka mag-adapt. You learn quicker. You absorb quicker. And for the most part, that's true. But there's always going to be that time period na you struggle. I remember when we got registered to go to elementary school, yung mga teachers namin thought that I was really, really slow because they would speak to me and I wouldn't be able to respond back right away. Because basically, ginagawa ko, if somebody was to ask me a question, I would translate it in my head in Filipino and then retranslate it into English before I speak it out. And that went on for maybe 6 months to maybe a year until, I was able to get a hold of the language a little bit better. And for a lot of Filipino families that are here, and they're pretty fresh, and if they have kids, I can almost guarantee you that what my little brother and I went through would be very similar to what they would go through, provided that they don't have a very strong grasp of the English language. Kami nung kapatid ko, not really. Because, we went to, from what I remember, we went to Notre Dame of Greater Manila, dun sa Caloocan. They do their very best to teach you the Western way, from what I remember, but really, nothing in comparison to, nothing that would really prepare you to live, breathe, and sleep English. Tandaan ko yung mga naging kaibigan ko, nung bata ako, they thought the same things as the teachers. Medyo slow ako to respond, but everybody was very, very nice. Everybody was very, very accommodating. The area that we lived in nung nagland kami dito sa Canada was in Toronto. And from what I remember, at that time in the mid-80s, we were lucky we ended up in a neighborhood where everybody was so welcoming. It was predominantly Italian and Portuguese. It was around the Bon and St. Clair area. I still remember the address. It was 23 Robina. And yeah, that neighborhood was very, very predominantly Italian and Portuguese. So needless to say, mga naging kaibigan ko nung time na yon were mostly Italians and Portuguese kids, you know? And fortunately for us, for me anyways, you know, I was in an area where everybody was super nice. Everybody was super accommodating. It didn't matter whether I had an accent. You know, it didn't matter whether hindi ko naiintindihan yung mga sinasabi nila minsan. You know, they treated me like I was their friend, which I was, and they were my friends. So in a way, we were very, very fortunate that way. There was no hint of racism. There was no hint of discrimination. Everybody was just generally super nice. Our next door neighbor was this old Italian man, Mr. Vindi. I still remember. He used to grow grapes and tomatoes in his backyard. And during the summer, you know, pag nag-harvest siya, he would always knock to our door, which was like next door to his, and he would give us like bushels, like baskets and baskets full of grapes and tomatoes. So yeah, those were our humble beginnings, and I guess we were very fortunate. You know, we were at the right place at the right time, and we were surrounded by beautiful, very nice, accommodating people. So one of the biggest struggles, pinakamalaking pagkakaiba, living as a kid in the Philippines versus living as a kid here in Canada was there was almost nobody home all the time. Because in the morning, me and my brother, we walk to school. And after we leave the door, both of our parents would leave to go to work. So, pag uwi namin, usually, well, my lola was always home. But, like, you know, my lola went from our house to our cousin's house, so she was never usually there all the time. So, lagi silang nasa trabaho, both of our parents. So sometimes, most of the time, pag uwi namin ng brother ko, walang tao sa bahay. You know, because here, unfortunately, sa Canada, hindi katulad sa Pilipinas. You know, if you're fortunate enough to have maids, there's always people dun sa bahay ninyo that's gonna serve you hand and foot. Dito, unfortunately, everything is do-it-yourself. And we learned that from a very young age. So I had to learn how to cook for my brother. I had to learn how to do my laundry. I had to learn to do my homework. I had to learn how to prioritize all of those things, you know, on an everyday basis. And, you know, I believe that's a good thing because you become very, very self-sufficient. And sa eskwelahan naman, like I mentioned earlier, for me, it was a culture shock. Dahil nung nasa Pilipinas ako, nung bata ako, I remember seeing everybody being Filipino. Everybody looks like me. In the mid-80s, I believe the whole entire school that we went to was called Darcy McGee. That was the name of the school, the elementary school. My brother and I were the only two Filipinos. I believe there was like one black kid and there was like 3 Chinese kids, and everybody else was either Italian, Canadian, or Portuguese. And yeah, it was a culture shock. But at the same time, I was really fascinated to meet people from different cultures because, you know, one thing I've learned, it doesn't really matter the color of your skin. It doesn't really matter the color of your hair, what your background is. At the end of the day, we're all the same. We really are. You know, we love family, we love life, and we love to live. Like, yeah, there's subtle differences between each culture, but that's what makes every single culture beautiful and unique. dito sa Canada, we're very multicultural. It's not just one race of people. There's Chinese, there's Europeans, there's Canadians, there's Italians, Portuguese, Irish, Filipinos, every different people from all over the world, they're here. And that's the one advantage that I think I had growing up, because I was exposed to many different cultures, and it made me understand, how people think and how people act, and basically just to understand their being. And I think that's very advantageous, when dealing with people, pagtanda mo, like with everything else. So, nung nasa eskwelahan kami, I was very quiet. Dahil I didn't quite know, I was very shy, I didn't quite know how to communicate with other kids. But then, they approach you. If anything, nung una parang takot na ako, but really, they're as interested in you as you are in them. So, I was able to make friends, and I got to know their culture, they got to know a little bit of mine, and it was wonderful. I mean, some of the people that I became friends with in elementary school, I still know today. Like, mind you, not like really close friends, but thanks to social media and Facebook, every now and then we would message each other. So it's wonderful. Like, 35 years later. But yeah, the biggest difference is the family dynamic. Dito kasi talaga, puro trabaho ang ginagawa ng mga tao. And most of the time, the kids are left at home. At that time anyways. And nowadays, I guess it's a little bit different. Dahil, it's way more diverse now. So, for Filipino families with little kids that are going to school that are kind of new to Canada, they have more things to do. They have more outlets compared to my time back in the mid-80s, But for the most part, it's always a busy lifestyle. So just to recap, mga struggles na face ko during while I was growing up during the mid-80s dito sa Canada as a young little boy. Number one was culture shock. Number two, the language. Number three, yung having to learn how to do everything yourself. Basically, do it yourself. Nung nasa Pilipinas kami, we didn't really have much responsibilities, my brother and I. Pero nung nandito, everybody has to pitch in to make the family dynamic work. So basically, I had to do chores. I had to cut the grass, for example, make sure the garbage is out on garbage days. During dinners, ako lagi ang tigalinis ng mga plato. I always have to clean up the dinner table after everybody's done eating. In the mornings, I have to help my brother prepare for school. I have to make his baon and my baon. I have to make sure that, we walk together and we get there safely. I have to make sure the pag-uwi namin, I'm able to make him like a simple sandwich if he's hungry. Like, many, many little tiny things, na kung if you're fortunate enough in the Philippines to have quote unquote helpers or maids, here ikaw ang gagawa. Which I believe is very healthy because it prepares you for life. It really does. Also, being scared to approach and be social with the people around me, that was another struggle that I had, which I quickly overcame as soon as I was able to get a hold of the language a little bit better, But other than that, really, nung bata kami dito in the mid-80s, life was really good. I can't complain. life was safe and life was good. You know, even though there wasn't that many Filipinos around, I felt very, very welcomed by the environment that I was in. And to this day, I really am very thankful, and I feel very fortunate that I had such a positive experience. So that's how life is as a young kid in the mid-'80s. Growing up, well, a little glimpse of it anyways, growing up here in Canada. So if you guys have any questions or any comments or whatever, please leave them below, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. So until next time, this is PuTo Mendoza in Canada saying,
Itanong mo sa akin kung sinong aking mahal.